Welcome, traveler of time. Settle in and let the gentle rhythm of history guide you. Tonight, we journey not through heroic battles or the halls of kings, but to the stone-lined alleys and dim, torchlit chambers of the ancient Maya world, placed dense with jungle heat, soft with the hush of ceaseless scribbling, and bound by a calendar older than the stars you may glimpse through your window. This is not a tale of great pyramids rising beneath a blue sky, though. They are there, in the background like sleeping giants, but instead of those whose lives passed largely unnoticed, the scribes, the chroniclers, the ones whose ink-stained hands carry the weight of divine timekeeping and royal memory. You'll ease into the world of carved glyphs and quiet burden, navigating the rhythms of a society where precision meant survival and where slipping up could bring shame, exile, or worse. Breathe deeply. Let go of your day. You're about to walk in sandals worn thin by repetition, through smoke-filled temples where jaguar masks watch in silence. Close your eyes if you like. You don't have to pay attention to every word. Just let the cadence carry you. Imagine yourself waking before the sun, in a village clinging to the edge of a great stone city. The air is damp, thick with the scent of wet leaves, and the lingering trace of last night's resin incense. Nearby, birds call with voices like wooden flutes. There's no time to listen. You are already late. The gods wait for no one. You are a scribe. That means you are literate, learned, and at least in theory. It also means your days are not your own. You begin by mixing pigment, crushed cochineal for red, soot for black, crushed shells for white, ink that stains your hands, your clothing, and if your luck, your name into eternity. Your master requires a copy of the long count, a series of calendar cycles, each number tied to rituals, celestial movements, and predictions about the fate of the state. You copy, with painful precision, each jagged symbol onto bark paper pages. One error, and the meaning of an entire ceremony might shift. That weight never really leaves your spine, but you listen in silence, imagining the next glyph that must be memorized before sleep, a symbol for burning water. You don't yet know what it means. When the priests enter, their footsteps echo in the stone halls, drawn with a stingray spine across the tongue or forearm. Not enough to kill, just enough to feel the divine flicker of pain. Enough to remind you that you are still mortal, and the gods are always watching. You bow low. Their robes brush against you, heavy with dried blood and embroidered with images of Quetzalcoatl, or the maize god. They hand you bone styluses and parchment. There is a new eclipse coming. Charts must be revised, calculations checked, omens weighed. By mid-afternoon, your fingers ache, your back, folded for hours over a low table, pulses with dull heat. Outside, children chase each other between carved, steely. You do not look up. You must recalculate the toucan cycle. Again, the last prediction was imperfect. Later, there is ritual. Not all scribes are asked to participate, but today you are honored, or so they say. A small wound offered in penance or humility. At dusk, you eat your only full meal, maize, patties, and fermented cacao, served cold and unspiced. The others laugh, huddled around tiny fires. Mat, you rest on a mat of woven rushes. The stars shimmer above. You wonder if they're watching too. Tomorrow it starts again. Now, picture yourself under a wide blue sky, walking through the narrow stone streets. The sun hangs heavy overhead, its heat rippling through the air like the breath of a sleeping jaguar. The city hums not with music or cheer, but with a quiet, strained determination. At its height, Copán was a jewel of the Maya world. Grand pyramids towered above the jungle canopy, intricately carved, steely-lined ceremonial plazas, and glyphs danced across temple walls in praise of divine kings. You live in a home made of clay and wattle, its thatched roof leaking slightly in the rainy season. Your days revolve around tending maize fields that no longer yield as they once did. The soil, once rich and dark, is now pale, dry, and thin. Beneath the majesty, something was slowly unraveling. Instead, it crumbles gently under its own weight. Temples still stand. Glyphs remain etched in stone, but the laughter fades, the crops wither, and the scribes find fewer tales to tell. You do not look back. The inscriptions grow more desperate. Kings boast of increasingly extravagant rituals. More blood, more feasts, more monuments. Great sweeping ceremonies meant to rekindle the gods' favor. The plazas fill with color and incense. Dancers whirl beneath feathered headdresses. But beneath the drumbeats is a subtle panican, attempt to distract from the cracked walls and abandoned terraces creeping up the city essay. Not stolen away by war or plague, but gone. Simply left behind, like so many others who slip away into the jungle, seeking food, hope, or simply space to breathe. Always more. You copy their claims by torchlight, that they are gods, that their line is eternal, that the people rejoice, that nobles are mortgaging their land to maintain their lifestyle. You write none of this down. It is not what the king wishes recorded. By it, you know the harvest shrinks each year, and the market stalls are quieter. Trade slows. Hunger spreads. Imagine being one of the thousands who called home in its final century. Revenge. You may have noticed the shift before others. There are festivals, of course. You may hear rumors in hushed tones that the rivers flow weaker now, that once verdant hillsides are bare from over. Then comes the silence. One day, you wake to find your neighbor's home empty. The city does not fall to fire or sword. Eventually, even you must go. You leave behind your styluses, your jars of ink, and a library of folded bark paper books hidden beneath floor stones, tucked away behind altars, forgotten beneath moss and centuries. The jungle swallows with patient grace. Roots crack stone, rain erases color, trees shade what was once sun-drenched plaza. And yet, somewhere, the glyphs wait silent, witnesses to a civilization that wrote its own ending, line by careful line. As you settle more deeply into stillness, let your mind drift to the shadowy depths of the jungle canopy. Thick vines sway gently above collapsed stones. Moss blankets forgotten staircases. Pee to the glyphs no one has yet read. To the temples no one has yet rediscovered. And beyond the rustle of distant bird song and the rhythmic chirping of insects, there is a deeper silent swan that has lasted for centuries. We now step into the third chapter of our journey, quiet ode to what remains hidden. You trace your fingers over a single symbol, perhaps a jaguar claw, a half-closed eye, a spiral that curls inward like breath. What does it mean? Is it a date? A name? A place? And what of the others, the hundreds, perhaps thousands of glyphs still untranslated? In remote corners of Guatemala, Mexico, and Belize, LiDAR technology has revealed sprawling cities beneath the canopy, dozens of them, each with their own roads, pyramids, plazas, dock. The game played there, poke to poke, remains only partially understood. A small shift in the soil after rainfall reveals carved staircases. Disturbing them could damage fragile frescoes or displace entire ecosystem. Some ruins, like those in a deep basin, are simply too remote to safely reach. A jaguar sculpture peeking through fern, but lies within Very's bones. Ritual items, murals of otherworldly beings riding serpents through flame. But always, somewhere, glyphs, waiting. We know it was sacred. We know it involved bouncing a heavy rubber ball without using hands or feet. But the rules, the strategy, the specific meaning of each ceremony, lost, and inscriptions waiting in darkness. The Maya script is among the most elaborate ever created in the ancient world, a complex weaving of phonetic signs and poetic metaphor carved into stele, codices, and temple walls. One of the keys to deciphering the language came from a young Soviet linguist named Yuri, who, without ever visiting the ruins, recognized that Maya writing combined syllabic and logographic elements. It was a puzzle built on tone, context, and repetition. Names of rulers no one remembers. Songs sung in courts that haven't echoed in 1,000 years. Rituals performed beneath constellations, charted in forgotten calendars. And sometimes the most powerful voices are the ones still waiting to be heard. It wasn't until the mid-20th century that scholars began to seriously unravel its meanings. Before that, these symbols were treated as pure decoration art, rather than language. Imagine standing before a stele, its surface worn but resilient. Some of the greatest breakthroughs came through fragments, bits of bark paper codices hidden in dry caves. Oh, the graffiti-like inscriptions tucked behind altars in long-abandoned rooms. And yet, even today, there are entire passages we cannot read. Some glyphs are completely unique to a single temple or region. Others appear in sequences that defy current understanding, stubbornly silent despite decades of study. Now, picture the temples. Some slumber beneath forest growth so thick their outlines are only visible from the sky. Among the most mysterious are the ball courts grand, rectangular spaces flanked by sloping stone walls. Sometimes archaeologists uncover temples completely by accident. Perhaps the most haunting thought is this: many of the temples left untouched today remain so not out of reverence, but caution. So they remain out there, quiet, hidden, untouched. As you listen, imagine all the untold stories locked in those silent glyphs, and then breathe. The jungle is vast. Time is slow. Now, allow your thoughts to shift inward to a place of incense, smoke, soft chants, and stone corridors heavy with silence. The royal court of a Maya city was not just a seat of governance, it was a theater of divinity, a chessboard of bloodlines, and a sanctuary of both wisdom and peril. Imagine walking barefoot on polished limestone, your steps muted by embroidered cloth. You are among the court scribes, or perhaps a law-ranking noble invited to bear witness. Above you, murals shimmer in natural pigment. Jaguars stride beside serpents. Lords lift two-fingered gestures to the heavens, and priest-kings wear masks that blend human and god. At the center of it all sits the Adulair, ruler not merely political, but spiritual. His words shape the calendar. His blood seals the bond between the living and the gods. A feast may celebrate peace, but every guest calculates who sat where, who spoke to whom, who left early. Certain words are reserved only for those of highest status. They may hear the faint echoes of ritual or catch a glimpse of a feathered cape on ceremonial day. But the heart of royal life remains closed. The king retires to chambers surrounded by murals of ancestors and stars. The astrologers continue their calculations, mapping the paths of Venus, Mars, and the moon in painstaking detail. The court is another world ornate, ritualized, and unbearably tense. Even how one bows, or the number of steps they take when approaching the throne, is codified. B is flanked by advisors, astronomer priests, and diplomats. And though the court seems calm beneath the surface, it is always shifting. Musicians play haunting, repetitive rhythms on wooden flutes and turtle-shell drums. B, a sacred ball game, is held not for sport, but ceremony. Never mind the whispered disputes or the merchant's quiet complaint. The losing side may face exile or even sacrifice, though such rituals are rare and more symbolic than not in the court's inner circle. Some are tributes from allies, others veiled messages from rivals. Every item is weighed, not just for material worth, but for symbolic meaning. Divination is constant. No major decision it trade, marriage, or war can move forward without consulting the stars or casting lots. A smoky mirror made of obsidian may be consulted, or intricate maze kernels may be cast in a ritual bowl. You observe from behind a curtain, noting each symbol, each tremor of the priest's hand. Gifts arrive daily, bundles of cacao beans, rolls of jade-beaded cloth, or live animals carried in woven baskets. Court alliances are delicate things. A marriage may bind two cities together, but beneath the wedding garlands, distrust lingers. And then there are the performances. Dancers with painted limbs reenact creation myths. The courtiers themselves live in a strict hierarchy. Elaborate headdresses and textile patterns communicate rank. Meanwhile, beyond the palace walls, commoners toil in silence. Most will never glimpse the court. As night falls over the city, the torches are extinguished. And in a chamber nearby, a scribe, perhaps someone like you, records today's events, careful to emphasize stability, prosperity, divine favor. Because the court must always appear eternal, calm, blessed, even when it is not. And now, dear listener, we draw the final curtain on our slow passage through the Maya world of sacred numbers, pink-streaked scrolls, and forgotten kings whose names sleep in stone. Tonight, we've walked in the sandals of scribes, quiet figures burdened with the task of transcribing eternity. We've wandered through the silent streets, of watching it unravel under the weight of ambition and overuse. Every star, every season, a whisper from gods whose moods shaped the calendar. And though centuries now part us from their footsteps, some things remain. The rhythm of work, the pressure of precision, the yearning to be remembered. We've peered into glyphs that still resist translation, and imagined temples lying hushed beneath 1,000 leaves. Bare, and finally, we crept through the palace halls, where protocol, prophecy, and quiet tension shaped the hearts of empire, and paper scrolls into a sleep as deep as the jungle itself. In their time, these people lived beneath a sky they believed alive with meaning. People, and yet, tonight, you don't need to remember anything. The stories will remain here, waiting for you. So close your eyes if you haven't already. Let the hush of history guide you gently onward, past stone walls. Rest well. Tomorrow, the scribes will rise again. But for now, their hands and yours may finally be still. Good night.